Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Morning Commute. I'm joined today, as ever, by Clem for another action-packed show. Morning, Clem. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much, Marcus. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Can't complain. Nearly through the week. Had a good week so far. It's been quite a busy one this end. So tell us, what have we got going on today?
Well, in today's show, we have an interview with Head of Financial Planning at the CC, Jackie Lockie. Thomas back with us with another money-saving tip, and we are then also back in the garden with Will Robbins. I'm looking forward to the vegetables we're going to look at today. But before all that, I got today's news from Will. So what's the news today, Will?
Hello, everybody. So what's going on? Big news. Shell has cut its dividend. I think this is huge. I don't think it's done this since the war. This is a really big deal. So it's cut its dividend, and I think so it's cut its dividend by 2/3, first time since the Second World War. And I think that its share price is falling as a result. It's already about 6.4% down. Shell renowned for paying a dividend, and a lot of pension schemes have Shell, like loads of pensions investments have Shell in it, like absolutely loads. Probably ESG investments have Shell in them as well. So this is probably going to have quite a big impact, and it's one of those companies where it sort of almost said, well, we can never cut our dividend because so many people rely on it. So yeah, just that should be big news for all of you, really. Or another article that's up there that might attract you is an interview my colleague Dan Grote, a former editor of my magazine, has done with the Jupiter fund manager John Chatfield Roberts. It's all about dividend. There's a great quote. He goes, he's talking about payouts of dividends, right? And he says, there appears to be a politically correct feeling that paying dividends is bad. We thoroughly disagree with this. We call on public companies to maintain their dividend payments if they're financially able to do so. So I thought, yeah, it's quite it's just an interesting interview to find. It'll be on the NMA website soon. If you can't wait for that, find it on our Citywise Funds Insider site, just for direct investors. But yeah, quite an interesting interview there that Dan's done. Dividends are not just the preserve of rich capitalists, he says. But actually, in the context of the Shell story, that's true. Actually, it was interesting to contrast that interview that perhaps last night seemed a bit controversial. And those, for now, are the main news announcements. That's it.
All right, thank you very much, Will. I think for a lot of planners, that might be the call to adopt a total return approach instead of an income strategy. But anyways, what do we have next, Marcus?
Well, up next is one of my favourite segments of the week, Tomo's Tight Ass Tip of the Day. Tomo, what gems do you have for us this morning?
Crikey, you've built me up, and I might let you down. I have a couple today. Going on a theme, one silly one. I think it actually could do a lot of good for the world. So the first one was shared with me by a colleague, and I thought this was quite funny actually. It's the idea of, I think we're all a bit calmer with this, but you remember when loo roll was the thing. I mean, this was only weeks ago, but it seems like a decade ago. Loo roll was the thing. Ironically, there's been a point where a barrel of crude oil is actually being worth less than a loo roll. It's just remarkable, isn't it? But their advice was flatten the loo roll so that certain adults and children can't pull as much off as they usually would. So it's self-policing there. So just a thought, if you're running low and those hoarders come back again. But I thought that was quite a clever one. But the serious one today is, it's not so much a money-saving tip as so much it's free. Well, I guess that is tight as Tomo, isn't it? It's free. But what it does, and what I'm about to explain, is something, yeah, I think it can really make a difference. And it's a search engine. Some of you may have already heard of it, called escosia.org. That's ECOSIA.org. Acts like Google, as in it's a straightforward search engine, but with the advertisement revenues that they generate, they actually use that to plant trees. So you can actually see a little dial that says, I mean, at the moment, they've planted 92 million trees off the back of this search engine. So I think, considering it's free, and an opportunity to redress some of our carbon issues. I thought that was a really interesting thing that was shared with me, and I thought I'd share it to you guys. Have a look at it. It works pretty well. So yeah, there you go. A sensible tip and a silly tip.
Thanks, Tomo. That's awesome. I've heard of Ecosia. I haven't actually used it myself. Does it work okay? Have you experienced any problems with it?
Not massively. I've only been using it for a few days now. My colleagues at work have been using it for a while. I'm a dinosaur. Dinosaur. Imagine saying you're a dinosaur because I was using Google. But I'm going to give it a real go because my colleague said, yeah, they have no issues with it at all. I just try it. If it is saying if it is doing what it says it's doing, then I can see no rhyme nor reason not to. Yeah, there you go.
Brilliant. We'll give it a go. We'll get back to you next week with how we've got on. Thanks for that. That's brilliant. So up next, we've got an interview with Jackie Lockie, who's Head of Financial Planning at the CISI. Morning, Jackie. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Marcus. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on. Well, for those of us who don't know you all that well, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at the CISI?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Head of Financial Planning, so I look after the financial planning community within the CISI. That is all the certified financial planners as well as paraplanners who aren't certified and people who are trying to get qualified. And also some of the wealth managers or anybody else who is interested in joining the financial planning community, trying to help support them to understand what financial planning is and what a benefit it can be for their clients. I am a certified financial planner myself. I used to be in practice a few years ago. I have been a paraplanner as well. So, and all of the guys who know me certainly keep my feet on the ground on a weekly basis.
Thank you. And how about the CSI itself? Would you tell us a little bit more about what its goals are?
Yeah, sure. So the CISI, it was born actually out of the stockbrokers from the stock exchange, and they've broadened their base over the years. With about approaching 30 years old now as a professional body. It has chartered status, and it has a number of different arms to it: compliance, operations and risk, as well as investment primarily. And then in 2015, it merged with the Institute of Financial Planning that many of you are probably already familiar with, to take on their financial planners there and to integrate them. And what we're seeing is a number of wealth managers across the community now who are moving towards financial planning, trying to offer a combined service of investment management and proper financial planning as well.
So by taking on those two bodies, or rather by being the investment body and by taking on the financial planning body, do you think the CISI is driving that shift, moving people towards financial planning?
Yes, definitely. And we have a number, so there's about just over 5,000 people in the financial planning community at the CISI now. And that's growing each month, still growing each month, despite being on lockdown. So there are a lot of people who are really interested in financial planning, who have perhaps come from a different background, who perhaps have a lot of securities and investment exams or compliance exams. And as their businesses are moving more towards the kind of one-stop shop scenario, there are a lot of people who really want to understand the benefits of financial planning. And also, even people, who are in compliance in situations like that, they still need to understand what good financial planning looks like so they can help police that in the firms as well. So actually, it's been a very interesting merger, you might say, but yeah, it's a really positive move, and getting the right messages out to those wealth managers who want to do financial planning, so they understand it's not just a case of, popping on a couple of pensions or, a bit of life assurance. That's not financial planning as we all know it.
And my understanding is that a big part of the developments that have happened at your end recently have been the new qualification, specifically a level 7 case study. So what was the thinking around the development of that? And how does it compare to, say, the level 6 qualifications that you've offered in the past and that are available through the CII and others?
So the previous level 6, which was the route to certified financial planner, it's been having a number of issues, certainly under the IFP, and then when it transferred over to the CISI. And so what the CISI have been doing, they've been thoroughly investigating what's been going on, identifying all the issues, trying to streamline the process. But we wanted to make sure it was kind of fixed from start to finish. So we've essentially taken the old route and split it into two, to take, so that it's not just everything in the old route, everything rested on that one huge case study and the financial plan that needed to be from it. And so what we've done to ease the pressure, make it more in kind of bite-sized chunks, is to split that case study out into two. And so we've got a level 6 exam and then a level 7 case study. And the theory to push it to level 7 was that actually the old case study really was above level 6 already because of the size of it and the complexity of it anyway. So all we've done really is trying to pull it apart, if you like, into two pieces and to make it more achievable, and also so that things aren't tested twice over. Once you've been tested in, say, the exam situation, you're not then retested in the case study situation. So the early signs are really good of the people who sat the first early pilots in September last year. And also we had a sizable number of people who managed to sit the level 6 exam in the first week of March this year. So it was just a few days before lockdown, about 10 days before lockdown. So we're very fortunate that, and I think those people are quite relieved that they've actually managed to sit the exam. So the results are out on the 7th of May. So we will see how everybody's got on.
Fantastic. I was just going to ask you next about uptake, but it sounds like that's really positive. And I can see we've had a question in the chat about, is there a target for the number of CFPs that you'd like to achieve in the UK over the next year, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, well, for those of you who know me, they know that I like to stick my neck out a little bit. So yes, there certainly is. I mean, I'd like to put the number of CFPs back to at least where it was before, certainly in the next 12 to 18 months. The target was 12 months, but obviously because of COVID, things are kind of going a bit up in the air. So certainly, next 18 months, 2 years to put them back is the first thing. And actually the intention for the CISI is to double the number of CFPs within 5 years. Because really the number of wealth managers and other advisors who are coming to towards the CFP is starting to grow. That interest is growing and we're seeing it only accelerate. But what we would like people to do is, if they're going to come and do financial planning, we want them to learn how to do it properly. As I said, it's not just a case of bolting on a couple of products and calling yourself a financial planner. So we're trying to attract as many people as we can into that community so they can learn from all of you, and they get the benefit of all of your wisdom and the feeling of the community that really is here, that doesn't really exist in a lot of other financial professions.
Fantastic.
So, big goals.
So when you say double, can you just give us a sense of the numbers we're talking about there?
Yeah, so certainly over 2,000 in the next 5 years, and then on 5,000 plus, hopefully in the years after that. So wow. I know some people say do me big or whatever, but I think it's a really worthwhile profession, as all of you already know. And we just need to engineer that to get the message out to people so that they can really understand, what's going on and how it can really benefit their clients.
And just a very quick question before we move on to talk about the lockdown and how you're surviving all of that. Am I right in thinking that you have to do the level 6 before you can do the level 7? Or if you've got other level 6 qualifications, can you come in and just do the level 7 part?
Yeah, so you have to do the level 6 before the level 7. So if you have other level 6s from elsewhere, then in theory you should be able to get through that relatively easily. The reason why we've done that is because of the old CFP. We found that some people who had other level 6s with other organisations were still struggling to pass the giant case study. So that's why we've set it out. So the new level 6 exam, it's more than just a straightforward exam. The learning that goes with it takes you further along the line to prepare you better to do the case study afterwards. And it's that bit that seems to be missing. So that's why we're asking people to do the level 6 first.
Right, gotcha. That makes complete sense. And I know you were talking a little bit before we came online here about some guides that you've just published. Would you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So we published some guides, 2 guides yesterday afternoon. These are guides for members of the public to download, and we're asking all financial planners, all of our CFPs are sending them out to their clients to get the message out as far and wide. So they're in plain English, as much as we can do plain English. We've had input from a huge number of our certified financial planners to design these guides. They are self-help guides for members of the public in different situations. There's one for people who are employed, perhaps who are being furloughed, who've had their hours cut and their pay cut. And the second one is for self-employed people and for those running small businesses, because there are some critical differences that we want small businesses to think about, so that hopefully when we come out of the other end of this, people in those situations, A, will still have a job, and B, those businesses will still be alive and kicking. So they're freely available on the website for the public and anybody to download. Yes, we emailed Will yesterday afternoon, but obviously as all his emails are down, I don't think he's got the information yet. So hopefully we'll see some help, some coverage from Citywire about that as well. But that came out of an idea actually that Will had himself in a debate a month or so ago about whether, what should we do as a profession to help members of the public. And we know that a lot of you are already very busy supporting your clients at the moment. And so we were thinking actually in the financial planning team, what could we do to help members of the public who perhaps can't access you for advice.
That's fantastic. Please do feel free to put a link in the chat to the guides, and we'll do our best to get them out there to those people who need them. Just reading the chat, actually, we've had one question come in which asks about the average cost of doing the CFP. I appreciate there's obviously the fixed costs of taking the exams. Do people often need additional training or guidance to do it? For an ordinary, say, level 6 qualified chartered financial planner, what's it generally costing them to get through the qualification?
So the base cost to do the level 6, the level 7, and then also the CFP license, which is the annual renewable fee, is about £1,300. And that includes the workbooks and online learning. So for the level 6 particularly, if you're already chartered elsewhere or level 6 elsewhere, then that's probably sufficient for you. And then there is training available. I think you've got Steve on tomorrow, Steve Martin from the FP Training Academy. Steve is one of our accredited training partners who's doing the level 7 training, and he's doing some virtual training for people to help them get through their level 7 case study as well. So that's an option for people to do that. But there is, for the level 7, once you've passed level 6, there is another workbook and also a sample financial plan with commentary on how to build it against those global standards.
Fantastic, thank you. So the final 2 questions for you. How are you guys at the CSI coping with lockdown, and what are you planning to do? How are you planning your return to a potentially socially distanced working environment in the future?
Yeah, so for me personally, lockdown hasn't actually been as much of an issue, I think, as some of my colleagues, because I already work from home. So I have a home office, fortunately, and a proper chair and all that malarkey, and all my systems set up at home. So for me personally, it hasn't been as much of an issue. For the rest of the CISI, we've had issues getting laptops for a few people, but the majority of people have been fine. Everybody's settled down. We've got quite strong teams within the CISI. The financial planning team is very strong. And so we've set up, I think as many of you probably have, regular calls, keeping in contact. We've got some social chats and coffees and games and things like that going on as well. And, we're keeping, as an organisation, keeping an eye on our staff to make sure that they're, accessing. There's lots of free apps and things out there. I mean, Tom has probably mentioned it in days gone by, but lots of yoga apps, and Headspace and Calm have been offering free access to their apps, and Peloton and things like that as well. So just making sure that staff are not stuck in front of their laptops for the whole day. having regular breaks, and keeping an eye on everybody's mental health, trying to encourage them to get out and, you know, go for a run around the block or something like that. So yeah, it's been interesting, because actually, in a funny kind of way, you know, normally when I've been in the office, it's more difficult for people to get hold of me because I tend to charge from one meeting to another. And actually, some of my team have said to me that we really got to know each other a lot better over the last 4 weeks. I don't know whether any of you have with your teams, because we've been able to have lots of informal chats, and, you know, everybody's seen my son and seen my cats, and, you know, we've seen all their kids and animals and things like that jumping up in front of the screen. And I was on a live recorded webinar to a psychologist last week, and I've got a huge big fat black cat who decided to make an appearance 2/3 of the way through. So all of those kinds of things that just kind of had a bit of humanity to the situation, don't they? Make us all smile a little. So but yeah, we're doing okay. I think one of the big things for us at the moment, for people looking to sit exams, is that we are about to introduce remote invigilation firstly for our multiple choice exams first, and then moving on to look at the other narrative and written papers after that. So hopefully in a couple of weeks, they will all be live and ready to go for people who are kind of working their way through perhaps their level 4, who still want to be, you know, professional advisors in the future.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Okay, we're just running out of time, but before we let you go, what are you most looking forward to when lockdown ends?
So a couple of little things, I think. First thing is I'm looking forward to giving my mum a big hug, because I haven't seen her in a number of months now, and she's in a very vulnerable group. And the other thing is, you can probably tell from my background, is I love open water swimming, so I'm looking forward to going open water swimming with all my friends.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Jackie. That's been fascinating. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Then, what do we have next?
Well, Will is supposed to be in the garden, but he's still in front of his green screen. So, so what are we going to do now, Will? Do you want to talk us through your vegetable patch?
Figs, yes.
Oh, there we go.
I can't get into the garden. It doesn't work in the garden, I'm afraid. I've tried it. The Wi-Fi doesn't extend that far, and it's going to get messy. And I'm a risk averse, a low tolerance of risk. So I've taken some pictures of my lovely figs, as you can see, and some other things for my presentation.
Great. Shoot.
Shall I get started? Great. Well, welcome to Birds, Bees and Bushes with Will Robbins. So we're going to take you through these 3 important topics. So I'm going to start with just a side note on birds. I'm obviously very keen on birds, having a bird in my name, obviously Will Robbins. Fun fact, my wife's name is Katie Sparrow. So we've basically, she's retained that, and so she's Katie Sparrow Robbins. I think I'm gonna, you know, a bit of a newsflash. I may become Sparrow Robbins myself. I think it needs to be done. So yeah, I'm a big fan of birds, despite being avid cat owners as well. It's just that inner conflict defines our lives. So birds, right? So these are 3 key things about our garden that I think. Birds. So we've got quite blessed with birds in our garden. One of the things we've been doing recently is trying to identify them. This is a nice thing that you could do, obviously, for yourself, and perhaps if you've got kids, being able to sort of identify the birds and through the bird song that you've got in your garden might be a really nice thing to do. We found there's a few apps out there, but the one we like the best, that works the best, you have to pay for. It's $3.99. It's called Chirp-O-Matic. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. And it's great. You literally just go outside. Hopefully there's not a plane going over or something. This is basically and also this is why we're doing it now, because it's a perfect time to do it. And make sure it's quiet, and you just listen. And it's very, very sensitive. It picks up birds, and it will give you a list of birds that it can hear, and you can play back the sounds. It's really good to do. You know, you've got a bored moment with your partner, with the kids especially. I did it this morning at about 10 to 7. I got a wood pigeon. I got a collared dove, which is that kind of, you know, woo, 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 woo. You know, that you recognize that from the morning. So that's a collared dove. A tawny owl. It's a hoot. I'm not going to do that. It's amazing. The great tit. Yeah, fan favourite. That's like that sort of do. So sometimes known as the car alarm bird. That's the great tit apparently, and of course the robin, which is I'd sort of class this as general chirping. We've got a couple of robins in our garden, obviously. But yeah, so that's great. So nice to go out there. You can spot them, and it's great. Try and do it at different times of the day. I think I was quite lucky to catch the owl. I wasn't sure. I did it a couple of times, and actually with another free app, which wasn't as good, but that came out with the owl as well. So obviously there's many going on at the same time. That was great. Attracting birds to your garden. So word on feeders. When we bought our house 2017, the previous owners had been trying to attract birds to their garden using feeders. It was absolutely riven with pigeons. It was not popular with the neighbours. There's pigeons everywhere. Maybe it's because I live in the suburbs. I don't know if that's a problem, but anyway, if we don't use the feeders, we needed to make peace with our neighbour Stuart really quickly. So we got rid of the feeders, and actually the smaller birds, the wild birds, as you say, have come back as a result. Despite us having a cat, doesn't seem to make any difference. Our cat's useless. It's never going to catch a bird. Never ever going to catch a bird. So yeah, what are the words like? I mean, we've got a few bare patches on the lawn that you can see them pulling up the worms. If you don't over manicure your garden, basically, and they'll get sort of stuff. If you've got a lawn, the birds can get food from the lawn. They need shelter. So again, anything sort of dense, evergreen, conifers and things like that, but like mature ivy and stuff if you've got growing on the fence. So, I came for a little bit of criticism a couple of weeks ago for my untidy garden, but there is a little bit of, on my defense, there's a little bit of reason to it, is that if you just cut everything back too much, you're just not going to have these little spaces for birds to nest in and get shelter when it's cold. And if you want to have birds in your garden, more so than sort of all the trouble you can go to with nesting boxes and feeders, that stuff can be really useful. A bird bath as well, if you've got a paddling pool out, as we have this summer, they'll use that to drink out of. They need water. So all the things that you'd want if you were living in a garden, basically. I do have a relation that had to live in his garden, but that's another story. So moving on from birds to bees. So I'm cribbing from a book called Planting for Honeybees, published by Quadrille, retailing at £12. And I've not actually followed its advice in sort of crafting my garden, but it's got some really useful information that I have happened to follow. So just a little bit I did sort of read a bit of it this morning to sort of give you a bit of context. Bees began their evolution about 100 million years ago, was plants started sort of interacting with insects and evolving methods of more efficient plant pollen distribution than just going on the wind. But humans started cultivating plants and flowers about 12,000 years ago. And the point is that the more we've changed plants to get different varieties of flower, that has become more of a challenge to a bee. There aren't that many varieties of bees, and they're specifically adapted to use the flower, sort of certain flowers. So if you start cultivating flowers, you change the shape of the petals, you change their access to the pollen, and actually that can really interfere with their ability to use the flower at all, and that's a problem. There's a quote that's often attributed to Einstein that if bees died, humans died, we'd have 4 years left to live. I couldn't verify whether Einstein actually ever said that. It's a sort of thing that you see you see it attributed, but basically they're obviously really important to the whole ecosystem. So, and also not every flower will do. So moving on to what flowers, just a couple some from some of my own garden. A cabbage plant. This is where I've got some photos. So yeah, see that cabbage plant. It's a cabbage. I planted it sort of the winter of last year, and it's grown up really big. And I've had to it's been straighten it up. But those little flowers on the top, often you might call them, they're the same as what you might be called a kale plant. Basically, it's the same plant, I understand. I think the same plant in different varieties produces kales, cauliflowers, broccoli, cabbages. Anyway, this is cabbage, but these little flowers was brilliant to see. March, April, bees already going mad for them. That was really nice. We also have another summer bee blockbuster, which is our catnip plant, which I don't think I have a picture of. Yeah, they absolutely love that. So yeah, catnip plant, Nepeta cataria, if you want the Latin name, and lavender, Lavandula angustophilia. So yeah, the lavender, between the catnip and the lavender, we just get so many bees in the summer. It's lovely. I happen to not be allergic to bees. I mean, obviously bring that into consideration if you are. But it's brilliant to see them and things. Just trying to sort of, catnip. Yeah, obviously, just a word on catnip. Yeah, obviously the cat loves it. It doesn't actually attract hordes of cats. It's okay. So if you've got a cat, don't be worried about putting the catnip plant into your garden. Your own cat will like it. There might be a little bit of competition now and then, but if you shoo away the other cat will be fine. There's a little cat-shaped hole in the middle of ours where it's nice to sit. So yeah, autumn, you might want to put some clematis in, maybe a bit of heather for bees. If you plant holly, bees will like that in the spring. We planted some daffodils over winter, which Julie sprouted this spring. It's brilliant to have some spring flowers. If attracting bees is your aim, you're going to need a lot of them. But yeah, again, it's just nice to have sort of a big variety of stuff that flowers over the year, because bees will, I mean, they do hibernate, but there are, it's quite a longer season than you think than just the summer, basically. Trees are good. We've got an apple tree, they love that. Bushes, anything like that. And of course, remember your water source, as with the birds. Friends of the Earth is providing a bee saver kit, which you can get, I think, for a donation to charity. I've just put the link up there. I've done that privately for some reason. Hang on, let me put the link up again. So try that. You can find it online. I'm thinking now I probably put the other link up privately as well, so I'm going to put that now. Yes, that's nice. Again, it's nice. I mean, it gives you some wildflower seeds. It gives you some tips on how to look after bees, so you don't have to buy that book for £12, and some postcards, which I think have been thrown in there as a bit of added value. But that's, yeah, you have a look at that. Again, it'd be nice because for wildflowers would be great. That's something that will sprout during the summer. And again, something for kids. It's just got bee identification guide. There's more than one variety of bee, of course. So you can, it'd be a nice thing to do with your kids. So moving on, I don't know how, I think I'm run out of time, but bushes quickly. Adam and I were discussing plant availability during lockdown. So what I'm going to do is just refer you to something called the Smart Plant app, which basically solves that question. So yes, how do you get plants? You can't go to the garden centres. The garden centres don't have them. A lot of plants are going to be thrown away, mulched. Go use this app. Basically, it's linking customers directly with nurseries. So you can buy bundles of flowers and basically buy them now. They're the right flowers for the right plants for the season. You can get them in. They'll last in the summer and so on. So you can do that bit of research, but it's great. So Smart Plant app, and actually 10% of your price. The price goes to the NHS as well, according to the website. So that's pretty amazing. There's about 20,600 plants have been saved so far. Bundles from about £20 for like 3 plants, 30 for 10, 100 for 10 really big one. Like I think it was like a hydrangea type plant. You could get 10 pretty big things for about £100. The app provides instructions. There's even a chat function, and with experts, they've really gone to town. But obviously, it's a whole industry, it's a whole industry that's suffered there. So get involved with that. And then, just as aware of time, last few words on things to plant. Sunflowers, plant them indoors now, and you can have them for the summer. We tried it with mixed success, but cultivate them indoors, then you move them outside. So your carrots and onions, you can do that around now. Plant your strawberry beds. We've got some last year's that have reseeded and they'll come out. I think if you cover them, you get better results. Plant your wildflowers. If you're getting that bee stuff, that bee pack, your planting for wildflowers now for the summer, for those that are July, August month. Couple of updates. My rhubarb. Now I don't know if Jennifer's here. Now this is Jennifer's rhubarb, right? That's absolutely amazing. That's mine. It's absolutely. I don't know what went wrong. Forcing it, I just definitely got worse results than I did last year. Forcing it's for mugs, right? Don't do that. Just grow your rhubarb If it grew well the year before, you know, and I think it's, so long as it's not like overly shaded or overly exposed, it'll be fine. And my lime tree, we've been cultivating that in our back room, or for the winter. It's a plant that lives on hillsides in hot countries, so it basically likes the heat, likes the sun, but not too scorching. So kind of the back room of an English house, well, or the where the sunny facing room of an English house is perfect. That's it, you can't really see it, but that's outside. And yeah, the figs, right? Obviously, repeat my message. Get involved with figs. Get into figs. They're great. You can get. Chris Budd was asking me about figs, and he can never seem to get it right. I reminded Chris that you can have up to 3 crops of figs on any one fig plant, and the time to know when they're ready is when they start dangling. Basically, like the little stem sort of weakens and they start to dangle. Just pick it. Basically, they're not really supposed to grow in England. So if you get one that looks like it's right, pick it, eat it. Don't tell your family. Just enjoy it for yourself. I think that's probably the way to enjoy your figs. And that's it from me.
Thank you very much, Will. So tomorrow we have Fitness Focus with Steve, interview with mental health advocate and public expert Nick Elston, and of course, Hiran and Dan will be here with some more Global Friday wins.
Wow, well, that was incredible. Thank you very much. And thanks to you, Clem. The gang tomorrow will tell us a little bit more about what we've got coming up next week. So I will just end by reminding you that we've got Lee Robertson joining us this evening for a roundtable discussion at 6:30. If you head to the events channel in Slack, there'll be some information there as to how to join us. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Cheerio. Bye.